The state of the British roads claims another victim. So welcome back to another video, guys. We're going to be swapping out a coil spring today. As we can see, there is a snapped one there on the floor, and Project KFC is looking well and truly tucked on this side. So what happened then, I was driving on the motorway and I heard an almighty bang. I thought it could be one of two scenarios: either the shock absorber on the rear has gone through the floor. It's quite a common problem on these E90 generation cars, or we have a snap spring. Turns out, of course, we have a snap spring. I did pull over on the hard shoulder because obviously I knew something was massively wrong. It's a very, very loud bang. But I did manage to limp the car home, and the spring, that was actually sideways. So yeah, it snapped and then managed to turn sideways. But yeah, like I said, got the car home, jacked it up, and yeah, the spring pretty much just fell out. So no need for me to remove the old one. Of course, I do need to get the car up in the air though, and we're going to be swapping out both of the rears. Whenever you're doing any sort of steering or suspension work, always best to change things out in pairs. You'll know that they are both new, and your car should, in theory, handle equally on both sides then. Now these are the two new springs that I'm going to be installing. Now they're actually a different size to the original, and that's actually a good thing. So I measured these, and I think they measured up about 330 millimeters. These ones that I ordered, I knew that before I ordered them, they're about 340 millimeters. Now why is that a good thing? Well, because I noticed as standard, the car seems to sit quite low anyway. I mean, this is the side without the snap spring, and yeah, it seems to sit quite low. So I would actually prefer a little bit more travel, so a little bit more height, because you know, whenever you're carrying something heavy in the boot, as soon as you put anything in the boot, this like drops right down on the wheel. So yeah, I actually want a bit more height. It seems crazy adding height to a car. Normally you add lowering springs or whatever, but yeah, I actually want to add a little bit on the rear, because if you have a look at the front, I mean, that arch gap is absolutely huge compared to the rear. So yeah, enough talking then. Let's get the car up in the air and let's get cracking. Right then, so have the car up in the air, just supported with some jack stands. I'm going to obviously tackle the side where the spring is missing first. Now, it should be, in theory, quite easy to do. So, all we should have to do is just release the two bolts on the bottom of the shock, and then just this bolt here, sorry, not that bolt, this bolt, which connects this lower arm to the hub. Once you have that off, you should be able to lever this arm down and then slide the spring in place, or so he says. Okay, so the bolt on that bottom arm is a 21mm. Well, it takes 21mm socket and a 21mm wrench. So hopefully that just comes loose. There's the nut off. Now, there's going to be a lot of pressure actually from that shock pushing it down. So I'm just going to get a bottle jack just to put under that arm, just to take the pressure off, and I can take that bolt out then. There's the bolt out. It's definitely been removed before because there's some grease on it, which definitely helps things. And I've also just taken out those two E12 bolts for the shock absorber. Now, if I release this bottle jack, this arm should drop down. I should definitely be able to push it down anyway. If we get a pry bar in there, I'll be able to pry it down as far as we need it to get that new spring in place. Okay, so I actually end up taking the nut off of the end of the shock itself. Just this 17mm nut here, and that's gave me the ability to just push this bottom arm right down now, and I should definitely be able to wiggle that spring in place. Right, so pretty confident I've got the spring now in place. I've also got the 2 bolts and the nut on the bottom. Remember, there is also a washer as well. If that falls out, make sure to reinsert it. I've also got this bolt and the nut on the other side reinstalled as well. That was pretty difficult on your own. That was pretty difficult on my own. If you had a second pair of hands, or if you had a huge pry bar, it'd be a lot easier. I'm sure it'd be a lot easier as well if you are installing lowering springs. Obviously lowering springs are shorter, so you don't have to, you know, push down as hard, but because these were 10mm higher, yeah, I had to really push down while trying to get the spring in place. But as you can see, we got it done. So now I'm just going to torque down all of the nuts and bolts, and then that should be this side done. So if you're wondering, torque specs for all those nuts and bolts. For the 2 bolts that hold the shock bush to that bottom arm, 1 ugga is enough. For the nut that holds the that holds the shock to that lower arm, again, 1 ugga is enough. For that big bolt at the bottom, I would say a good 3 or 4 ugga, or just a little tune, as you probably just heard. Right, hopefully then, if we release these jacks, this spring shouldn't fly out and take an eye out. Yep, we should be good with that one. So with one side now done, I'm just going to do the same on the other side as well. And just like that, that is both springs replaced. And yeah, for whatever reason, this side was actually easier. I don't know if it's just because I knew exactly how to do it. First time doing it on one of these cars, the rear springs, but yeah, it seemed to come out a lot easier. I put the new spring in and I realised I forgot the top hat, the little rubber boot on top of it, so I had to lower it down again, install that, and it's all perfectly in position now. I have noticed these shocks have been replaced at some point as well, which is, well, it's to be expected. The car's on 202,000 miles now, I guess, and these shocks, they only last about 100,000 miles or so, so yeah, good to know that they've already been done, but probably will need doing again at some point in the future. But for now, that's the rear springs replaced. Oh, there we go then, another job done on Project KFC. I really didn't expect to be working back on this car so soon, but I guess it's the gift that keeps on giving. But no, I mean, it's one of them. If a spring snaps, it's going to usually snap unexpectedly. Typically when you hit a big pothole, the state of the roads here in the UK are just absolutely shocking. I've drove abroad, I've drove in Norway, UAE, America, France, well, I've drove all over Europe to be fair, and the roads just seem so much better compared to here in the UK. It makes you wonder what my £30 a year tax is actually going to, although it's technically not road tax anymore, it's vehicle excise duty, whatever that means. But yeah, it's frustrating at the end of the day. Yes, I know you can claim off potholes off the local council and all the rest of it, but this happened on the M6. I'm hardly gonna, you know, stop where it happened, take photos and all the rest of it. You know, there's no chance of that. But yeah, I want to thank you all for watching anyway. Hopefully you all have enjoyed this video. Remember to give it a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe if you have not already done so, and I'll see you all in that next one.